the family dinner, just as I was pouring water into my glass, my dad suddenly leaned over and asked, "Nova, did the money arrive yet?" I froze. I had no idea what he was talking about. So I replied, "What money?" That's when the entire table went silent, and every single person turned to stare at my mom. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you're already hooked. The truth that's about to come out will leave you speechless. I could feel the tension thick in the air. My mom's hand tightened around her fork, her knuckles turning white. My older brother Kyle stopped chewing mid-bite. Even my usually distant cousin Lexi put her phone down for once. Dad leaned back in his chair, his face confused. "The check," he said. "The one I sent last month for Nova's tuition, $5,000. You said you'd give it to her directly." My heart dropped. I looked at Mom. Her eyes blinked fast, mouth slightly open, like she was calculating something in her head. I didn't think it was important. Nova had her scholarship. I just used it for some household expenses. "Household?" I said, my voice sharper than I expected. "We live in a rented apartment. There's barely anything new here. You told me I had to drop out because we couldn't afford food." My dad's eyes widened. "What? You dropped out?" 3 months ago, I whispered, because Mom said we had no money left. I've been working double shifts at a diner since. There was a ringing silence. You could hear the tick of the old kitchen clock. My aunt, who never missed a chance to stir drama, muttered, "So where did the money go, Carol?" That's when Mom snapped. "Oh, please, don't act like you all care. When Nova was struggling, none of you offered to help. I did what I had to do." My uncle stood up, furious now. "What you had to do? You stole her future and lied to all of us." I felt my chest tighten, but I wasn't crying. I was calculating, because I hadn't told anyone what I'd been really working on after those diner shifts. While they ignored me, laughed behind my back, treated me like I was nothing, I was building something no one in this room could imagine, and they were about to find out very soon. My mom stormed out of the dining room, but no one followed her. The damage was already done. I could feel everyone's eyes on me now, not with pity but confusion, suspicion, like they were realizing I wasn't the naive, helpless girl they thought I was. I stood up slowly, pushing my chair back. "So let me get this straight," I said, my voice low but steady. "Dad sent money. Mom lied, and all of you just sat around watching me fall apart." Kyle cleared his throat. "Nova, come on, no one knew—" "Exactly," I cut him off. "No one cared to ask." I didn't come here to explode like this. Honestly, I just wanted a free meal and to avoid another lonely Saturday. But now that the truth was cracking through, I didn't feel like hiding anymore. Lexi looked up. "Wait, if you dropped out, how are you paying rent? You don't live at home anymore." I gave her a cold smile. "I said I dropped out. I never said I gave up." She frowned. "So you're not in school?" "I'm in something better than school," I said, pulling my phone out of my pocket. A few people exchanged looks. "What, like working full-time at that diner?" Kyle said with a smirk. I tapped open my screen and turned it toward him. He squinted, then froze. "Wait, is that your name on that app?" he asked, his voice suddenly shaky. "You made that?" I turned the phone to show the others. A startup interface glowed on the screen. Sleek, professional, polished, my application. The one I'd been quietly building at night in the library after back-to-back shifts and microwave dinners. "It's been live for 3 weeks," I said. "Already hit 70,000 downloads. I've got 2 VC meetings lined up this month." Dead silence. Then Dad leaned forward, stunned. "You built a company?" "No," I said flatly. "I built an exit plan. From all of you." The moment the words left my mouth, I felt a tremor go through the room. They didn't see me as a failure anymore. They saw me as a threat. My uncle, always the opportunist, forced a chuckle. "Well, maybe now's the time to talk about some family investments?" That's when I laughed. Cold and quiet. "Oh, now you want in?" I said. Where was this energy when I was eating crackers for dinner? My cousin Lexi blinked. Wait, 70,000 downloads? Are you making, actual money? I looked her straight in the eye. I made more last week than Mom's made all year. Everyone stared, speechless. But I wasn't done. I hadn't told them about the biggest update yet, the one that would change everything. And just then, my phone buzzed. I glanced down and saw the name, a message from a CEO they all knew. The twist? He wasn't just interested in my app. He wanted me on his board. I stared at my screen, heart pounding. The name glowing on the message made my fingers go numb for a second. Ethan Granger, CEO of Orion Tech, billionaire. He'd been on the cover of Forbes last month, a man whose name could silence any room, especially this one. My uncle practically gasped when he caught a glimpse. Wait, is that... I locked my screen and slipped the phone into my pocket. Yep, that's him. Kyle looked like someone had smacked the air out of his lungs. Why would he message you? Because, I said, walking back to the table, his team downloaded my app 2 weeks ago. They've been tracking its growth. Today he wants to talk about licensing it. And maybe even something bigger. My dad's mouth was open, eyes locked on me like he was trying to recognize a stranger. Nova, why didn't you say anything? He asked. We could have helped. Helped? I laughed under my breath. You mean like when Mom lied and told me you couldn't afford a bus ticket? Or when I called from campus needing money for books and she said, figure it out? My mom's voice came suddenly from the hallway, sharp and shaky. You think it's easy managing this family? You think your father ever helped me? I was trying to keep this house running. You kept your image running, I shot back. I was just the extra mouth to feed. A beat passed. Then I turned to the rest of them, my voice calm now. Too calm. None of you saw me as anything more than the dropout waitress. But I've spent the last 6 months building something while you were all pretending to have it together. Lexi's voice cracked. You're really not making this up. I opened my banking app and spun my screen around. The number blinked back, $218,436.84. Gasps. My aunt whispered something to her husband. Kyle swallowed hard. Is that real? As real as Mom stealing my tuition, I said. And as real as the contract Ethan's lawyer just sent me. They want to buy in, not hire me, partner with me. That's when my dad stood up. Slowly, awkwardly, like he was waking up from a long nap. Nova, listen, we made mistakes, but we're still your family. Maybe we can start over. I looked at him, remembering every birthday they forgot, every time I asked for help and got told I was too sensitive or too dramatic. You don't get to start over just because I made it, I said. Then I reached into my bag and pulled out a stack of envelopes. What's that? My cousin asked. I dropped them on the table. Legal documents, because starting tomorrow, I own the lease on this house. Everyone went silent again. Mom finally stepped into the room, eyes wide. You bought the house? No, I said. I bought the entire block through a shell corporation, and I'm turning this neighborhood into something better than the fake pride you've been feeding off. Kyle laughed nervously. You're kidding. Ask the landlord, I said. He signed last week. And then came the final twist they never saw coming. I'm not here for revenge, I added. I'm here to give you a choice. You either sign this agreement and pay rent to me, or, I pointed to the door, you leave. No one moved. The only sound was the ticking wall clock and the soft hum of the fridge. My mom looked like her soul had left her body. Dad's face was pale. Kyle looked like he was trying to calculate 10 years of disrespect in reverse. You're kicking us out? Mom finally whispered. I'm giving you options, I replied. Something none of you ever gave me. My aunt reached for one of the envelopes. Nova, we're family. You really want us to pay rent? To you? I looked straight at her. You mean after you told me I was a disgrace to the family name because I was working night shifts? After you called me the girl with no future at the last reunion? She dropped the envelope like it had burned her. Lexi finally spoke. Nova, I'm sorry, I really am. I was mean. We all were. But this is cold. Cold? I said, my voice low. You think this is cold? Try sitting on a public bus after a 10-hour shift while your phone lights up with family group texts mocking your waitress life. That was cold. Try sleeping on your friend's couch because your own mother lied about money. That was cold. Kyle grabbed one of the documents and flipped through it. You really planned this, huh? I shrugged. While you all ignored me, I built. While you gossiped, I studied markets. While you laughed at me, I stayed quiet. You gave me no seat at your table, so I bought the entire table. Dad sank into his chair, hands over his face. Nova, we're your parents. You really want to see us struggle? You already watched me struggle, I snapped, and said nothing. Now you're just getting a taste. But then I looked at him, really looked at him, and something softened. For a second, I wasn't the powerful one. I was still that girl who begged him to show up for her high school graduation and cried when he didn't. You want the truth? I asked. He nodded slowly. I didn't buy this house out of revenge, I said. I bought it because I needed to take back control of my life, to own something, after years of being controlled. Silence again. Then I walked to the front door, opened it, and looked back. I'll give you until Sunday night. After that, I bring in the lawyers. Mom blinked. Where are you going? I smiled. I've got a flight to catch, I said. Ethan's flying me to San Francisco. Says I should meet the board before the paperwork gets signed. My cousin gasped. Board? You're joining OrionTech's board? Board, I nodded. Equity stake. They're even renaming one of their products after my tech. The stunned silence was more satisfying than applause. I stepped outside, the cool air hitting my skin like freedom. But I knew this wasn't the end, because I hadn't told them the biggest twist yet. The app? It wasn't just a tech tool. It was built to solve a problem I faced every day growing up in this toxic household. And when they find out what the app really does, they'll realize this story wasn't about revenge. It was about redesigning the system that broke me. 3 days later, I stood on the rooftop of a San Francisco high-rise, wind brushing through my hair, city lights blinking like stars below. My phone buzzed in my hand. Another email from Ethan's legal team. The final contract was in. As I stared at the skyline, I couldn't help but think of the dining table back home, where my family had once laughed at me, dismissed me, ignored me. The same people who were now frantically calling and texting. Too little. Too late. But this story isn't just about money. It's about power. Not the kind that buys houses or cars, but the kind that lets you rewrite your own story. I sat down with Ethan later that afternoon. He was sharp, calm, and curious. So tell me again, he said, leaning forward. What exactly does your app do? I smiled. It finds patterns in emotional neglect, I said. It scans texts, call logs, behavior shifts, and flags manipulative family dynamics. Ethan raised an eyebrow. So it detects toxic relationships. It doesn't just detect, I said. It helps you escape. Offers legal resources, housing options, emergency contacts, therapy discounts, everything I didn't have when I needed it. He leaned back, impressed. That's not just an app, that's a revolution. I nodded. That's the point. See, while they were mocking me, I was quietly documenting everything. The gaslighting, the guilt-tripping, the emotional blackmail. I turned my pain into data, my silence into code. I named the app Nova, not after me, but after what a nova actually is, a powerful stellar explosion, a dying star that becomes brighter than anything in the sky before fading away. Because sometimes, something has to break apart to shine. And here's what most of them still don't know. Every time someone downloads my app, every time someone escapes a toxic family, every time a young girl realizes she deserves better, my story repeats. And while my relatives still live in the house they now pay to occupy, they walk through halls that remind them every day who holds the deed. I didn't just win, I rewrote the rules. So the next time they ask, "How did Nova pull this off?" the answer is simple. You ignored me when I was nothing. Now you pay attention when I'm everything.